So the election cicada is back. Jill Stein was on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne and the rest of the crew, and they actually had a fact checker there that definitely did not let Jill Stein get away with anything. She was put to task on pretty much every fallacy that she has been spewing. And that would include the "I'm not a Russian spy" bit and the I'm not a disruptor. I'm here for serious reasons. Yeah, well, you guys can decide for yourself after this one, but I think that the Breakfast Club did a really good job. So go.
It could be that they've seen an opportunity for negotiation, for hearing another perspective. I've been in the rooms with her on justice reform issues and others to help to convene those rooms where she's been more open. Because what we do know about how politics works is that it can't just be this wish agenda.
Look at him sitting there like like a little student.
I love a lot of what you all have on your agenda. I'll call it the after 7, ready or not agenda. I'll give you the sun, the rain, the moon, the stars, and the mountain. But there's really
who called it a wish list? You mean the same people that spend $1 trillion of y'all's money blowing up other people's kids are saying it's a wish list to have actual social programming?
I think that's propaganda, man. That's propaganda. It's not propaganda. I'm saying it because I've worked on Capitol Hill. It's very difficult to get what you're trying to achieve. So just for example,
Jill can talk about what you can do.
She has more experience than both Jill Stein and this guy, and they're running for the office of presidency, and he's sitting here kind of just whining.
Just from the executive
Dr.
office?
Ware,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just for an example, I'd love to know.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
How many voting members in the United States House of Representatives?
So we have been blocked. The Democrats throw us
off. Yes. No. You don't get to do that. Answer the question. Well, the Democrats blocked us. We just don't have any power. Everything that happens to us, we're just victims of circumstance. We just have the most popular ideas, but we're totally popular. Come on, guys. We're the most popular. Why? Everybody should love us.
Interfere. They put spies and infiltrators on our campaign.
How many voting members?
You guys really are as bad as Trump. They put out there were spies. They put out spies. They're totally disrupting us. It's a coup of the Green Party. They're turning us blue.
No. Answer the question. How many voting members in the United States House of Representatives, Republican, Democrat, and Independent? How many total?
How many total are there? What is it? 600 some?
No.
They added.
No, it's 435.
Plus 100 in the Senate, right?
100. Yes, I said House of Representatives.
Color wheel, guys. Come on.
100 in the Senate. Of those 435 in the House, of the 100 in the Senate, how many? Just one moment. I'm not trying to put you on the defense. I'm just saying this because the Hill is my passion. That's where I grew up as a professional, right?
Go to purple.
How many of them are...
Oh, here. I don't do this very often, but I have to because look at how uncomfortable that laugh was.
It's 435.
Plus 100 in the Senate, right?
100. Yes, I said House of Representatives. Okay. 100 in the Senate. Of those 435 in the House, of the 100 in the Senate, how many... Just one moment. I'm not trying to put you on the defense. I'm just saying this because the Hill is my passion. That's where I grew up as a professional, right? How many of them...
Shit. I'm not a professional, and I keep getting reminded of that.
Are Green Party members?
Okay, I know where you're going with this. You are attempting to show that the Greens are powerless. I want to make the point.
She's preemptively on the defense instead of just actually answering what she's been fucking bringing up. This is the shit right here. And then she's like, oh, well, AOC was just being mean to us.
Well, this is usually part of that argument.
What was the point you were trying to make? What was the point? Before you rebuttal, Dr. Stein, what was the point?
I want to know how many voting members of the Green Party in the House or the Senate currently exist.
Currently, there are none. However, if you look at the American people, how many are voting against the genocide? Hardly any. How many are voting for health care as a human right, which would actually save us $500 billion a year? We, the people, are not represented. So not being there is not a strike against the Green Party.
Okay, and that's fine. How many of them right now, based on, and I called it a wish list, it wasn't to be offensive, is I have a wish list.
It is, because that's a referendum on you.
I got one in the ideal man I want to.
It's dismissive. It's a referendum party.
What I'm saying is, it's not dismissive. Hear my heart, right? I heard your heart on the mispronouncing of Kamala. Hear my heart.
All right.
Because there are none that currently exist, that means you got to have allies. Who are your allies in the House and Senate to help them? See, if y'all would have just slowed down a minute, y'all had guns blazing.
I told you to help them.
Right? We got to be
Please let me finish.
Oh, yeah. No, this is it. This is what I was talking about.
You got to work. You
got to work with the party
to get this very aggressive agenda done.
So let me tell you how the agenda would get.
Yeah, how are you going to work with Congress?
For one thing, we need...
Let her answer the
question. My question.
And it will get answered.
Names.
Yes. So what I want to speak to specifically is town hall meetings, which used to require representatives to meet their districts. They don't do that anymore. They meet with their donors. Well, they largely meet with their donors. They're meeting with their donors 90% of their waking time. They're hardly ever going to town hall meetings. I mean, we've been out there on the campaign trail, and when we mention this, we get nods all around the room, especially from the opponents of genocide, or from those
who are fucking 4 people
demanding health care as a human right, or from those who want gun control across the country.
We get nods.
we can actually have secure housing in this country. There are so many things that the American people are demanding, but our elected officials are accountable to their donors. So you have got a catch-22 here. You have a very difficult system to change. How do you change it? And it only changes in a crisis. When did the third party come along? That is, it was the Republican Party, which was the abolitionist party. It entered into the scene, basically right before the Civil War, and they had been preparing for it, running, and before the Republicans, there were other other abolitionist parties. But it's a long road to get there, and you have to work to get there. And and then suddenly they burst on the scene when the time was right. And right now we know that the American people are clamoring for other options. The other options, like namely us, we are the major option on the ballot across the country. We are being denied airtime. We're being censored. We're being silenced. We're being canceled effectively, very much by an explicit plan through the Democratic Party, which they've actually been explicit about.
I understand that, and you've repeated that to me about the time. What I'm trying to say is, with the very aggressive agenda you have, I said to you all, I agree with a lot of what you have there. What I'm talking about is, as a political strategist,
same.
Let me tell you, on day one,
who are your,
let me tell you, on day one,
your allies?
on day one, we stopped the genocide. Okay,
there's a lot. Allies?
So there's a lot.
That's all you have. That's all you have. On day one, I'm going to sign that paper and then nothing.
I'm trying, but I can't get an answer to my question.
Yeah. And if she's this aggressive with just trying to get an answer from her, from that question, what? Like, that was a milquetoast question. That was like a 6th grade or 8th grade civics question.
Your question, however, denies the power that the president has as the executive. The president.
Really? Look at what happened with Joe Biden in the student loan debt, and then tell me that you would be able to just end the genocide because I'm gonna call Bibi and just tell him no more. We're not giving you no more weapons.
The president has a fair amount of
even though Congress would still have to vote on that.
Executive authority to actually begin the process. So that process begins with stopping the genocide on day one, which happens with a phone call. It's happened before. This absolutely will happen, especially if we invoke the weapons embargo.
So would you say that you don't need allies?
On issues where you have executive authority, what you need are allies among the people, but you don't need the votes in Congress for much of this agenda. To declare a climate emergency, which we have. The Colorado River is about to shut down. We got people dying from heat, from inadequate food supply. People can't afford their food. Yet the major source of food in the U.S. Is in deep trouble right now. The Colorado River is within 1 to 2 years of shutting down. That supplies the California agriculture system. It's drought. It cannot.
Well, yeah. It's funny. We all had the same reaction because I'm like, this is interesting. Please enlighten us.
You cannot get into the system. You can no longer get through the outlets coming out of Lake Mead, which is where you have this big reservoir. It's almost too low.
I'm going to steal a Sam Kinison bit. Then it's time to move the people. If there's no food, move the food or move the people to where the food is.
To make it into the irrigation system to reach many states, but especially California agriculture, which supplies half of the fruits and vegetables for the U.S. So you think food prices are bad right now, just wait a year or two. They're going to be in real trouble. So we would declare a climate emergency, which there absolutely is right now. We just had over 100 days of over 100-degree weather in Phoenix. We got weather conditions that have never happened before.
Yeah. Got news for you. Phoenix is a desert.
We're in serious jeopardy, not to mention the storms and drought and the trouble for farmers and all that. So we declare the climate emergency, and that immediately triggers the release of over $500 billion every year in emergency funding.
I'm not even denying climate change. I'm just saying, like, hey, you're bringing up two places where it's just like, okay, well,
begin creating that Green New Deal. That is an emergency jobs program, so no worker is left behind.
And again, I live in Chicago. I got a nice freshwater source. I ain't leaving.
You tell me the president could do that right now?
Yes, it could do that right now. That could happen right now. And if I could just add something that our brilliant and talented campaign manager, Jason Call, who happens to be in the room with us, I don't know if the cameras want to pan to him. So when we were having this conversation last night after a similarly robust conversation with Mehdi Hassan, we made the point, and Jason was the one that brought this into the conversation.
The one he owned you on?
If we do land that knockout punch, that Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston knockout punch, and we managed to get 34% of the electoral.
Your obsession with Muhammad Ali is great fighter. I love him, and historical figure. I love him, but I think that you are implying that you are the Muhammad Ali in this. No, you got David and Goliath here is the one I'll give you.
College votes in this country, right? And we go from the 5%.
It's 34% of the vote, the actual votes, which would then translate into a majority in the electoral college.
Thank you for correcting the historian. Because
also, he's not making her look like a strong presidential candidate. optics again.
We've got a brilliant policy mind here, and I'm still new to this, and happy to be corrected by by both family, and new family.
And likewise.
Yes, exactly. So the point is though, is that if we move from that 5%, that we feel is basically assured at this point in time, that will lead to 10 million in federal funding to run the next election, so we're not pacing, behind. If we have moved to the point where Jill is able to make that phone call, that we've moved from that 5% to that 34%, that will mean that there is a profound mandate that comes from the American people with that office. That means that, yes, you might have these, intransigent, entrenched positions on both teams blue and team red, but what it will mean is that they will have to respond in a different way to team green if we have that kind of popular mandate. And that's why we're trying to take the case to the American people. We might fall short in making that case. They may never show us their chin to where we get to throw that knockout punch. But in the meantime, we are able to consolidate power that can be utilized in the next electoral cycle and in subsequent electoral cycles to give the American people a genuine choice rather than just the two gangbangers.
But when you talk about a threat to democracy, like Donald Trump is, right? We can all agree
Yes,
on that.
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
What if, because of y'all, he ends up winning, and then there is no more democracy, but y'all even have a chance to be a threat in the future?
Yeah, so
It's a good question.
So
We get asked a
yes,
lot.
I mean, Trump is out front, in interfering with the peaceful transfer of power.
Thank you,
So
Charlemagne.
a real threat to democracy. The Democrats on their end don't get a lot of, they're not held accountable for this, but they are throwing their competitors off the ballot in advance of the election.
Did they really hire a bunch of lawyers to
Oh
throw y'all
yeah,
off for 3 seconds?
yes, we can send you the articles if you like in the Washington
Nevada,
Post and the New York
Georgia.
Times.
Oh, yeah, I
But
read
they
them, I
are,
read
they're
them.
bragging, actually. They're bragging not only about the consequences, but even when their plan was launched back in March, they are bragging that they have hired an army of lawyers basically to find faults in our in our petitions, in our electoral process of getting on the ballot. So we have screenshots of their ads, which they have since taken down. But they actually have ads advertising for people to manage infiltrators and spies into our campaigns. And then they actually did hijack $300,000 in our public funding, which we critically needed for the timing of ballot access. And that's why, for example, we missed Oklahoma, because we didn't have the cash on hand to be able to pay the fee, which is what Oklahoma requires. So yeah, they are pulling out all the stops. And then they have, I'm sure AOC was being an attack dog there, because she was put up to some ridiculous story which really did not hold water, and I think was really quite embarrassing to her at the end of the day. Before her, it was Jamie Harrison, the head of the DNC.
Her face. I'm like, no, she dog walked your ass, but okay. She literally went viral with her takedown of you because so many people agreed with her. So many people like me watched that and went, cook, because yeah, you have went gourmet with this shit.
Who was trying to smear me about being a Russian agent. Well, that was long put to rest by the Senate Intelligence Committee, which looked into that smear campaign for 3 years. Actually, I had a detailed investigation by the Senate Intelligence
Where
Committee.
that came from, Dr. Stein, given the fact that you were sitting at the head table with Vladimir Putin next to Michael Flynn, who was
Wah, wah.
literally
No, not next to Michael
sent
Flynn.
it-
No, not
at
next
the
to.
same
He
table,
was
the
at
head
the table.
table with national security advisor.
No, I wasn't next to him. He was at the table.
Michael Flynn, who was found to have interfered with Russia in the 2016 election. And just months
Do you know
after
what my
you
message
announced
was?
Your election.
Do you know what my message was?
What I understand from what you said is that you weren't able to give that message because there was no one to translate
Well, actually,
that message.
but I was a major speaker at the conference. What you saw was a photo from the dinner afterwards.
Were you
There
at the
was a
head
dinner
table
party.
with Vladimir Putin, Dr.
Vladimir Putin came in and sat down for 10 minutes without
At the head
translators.
table with you.
Yeah, well, not with me. On the other side, the only person I could actually talk to, because there was so much
This is a very odd thing to have to defend, and then you're just like, I don't have any, nobody's influencing my campaign.
noise and music and entertainment going on. The only person I could get a word in edgewise to was the former foreign minister for Germany, Willy Wimmer, who was sitting on my right. On my left.
Your speech too.
And my speech, made 3 points. My speech made 3 points. One is that we needed an immediate peace offensive in the Middle East, and that Vladimir Putin needed to stop bombing Syria, which he had just begun doing. I told him that he was following.
And he stopped because I was in the room. I told him to stop, and he respected it. Make me president.
In the footsteps of U.S. foreign policy,
He didn't, by the way.
which
Just
was
being
a disaster
facetious.
by way of trying to bomb our way to peace in the Middle East. The second point was that we need a global Green New Deal because we have a crisis that impacts all of us. We need to move our money from the military to actually confronting our true, real threat to our survival, the climate. And the third thing being we need to get rid of the nuclear weapons. That, too, is a threat to our survival. And right now, that is a law.
Wow. You realize that, her ambition, I think that she's doing this thing where she's just going so extreme with each, platform for her, or each, oh my God, I'm blanking, issue, each campaign issue. And she's just going guns a-blazing, all for it, getting the most extreme, and then I mean, do you guys remember what her last extreme point was? Because now I think that she's kind of moving on towards the next.
That is a law of the land. The nuclear weapons ban treaty is now required by the United Nations. The vast majority of the world nations have signed on, but not the nuclear weapons holding nations, not Israel, not Russia, not the U.S., not China. So I was there to promote those three things, not just to Russia, but to the world press, which was gathered there.
This is a Russian TV dinner, which American intelligence officials say is the Kremlin mouthpiece. And I'm curious, if you were there, you were sitting in this picture that I see.
So I was there to speak to global media, including the Canadian Broadcasting System, the BBC, China, India, world media, to know that there is another constituency within the U.S. We are not all about being empire, about conducting endless war against black and brown people around the world and ginning up nuclear weapons. And we.
How come you only do that every 4 years, though? You know, the main criticism of what AOC kind of went viral for.
We have, by the way, led the charge in dismantling the nuclear treaty, so that right now we are risking nuclear war on 3 fronts. Did you know that one nuclear-armed submarine alone contained the equivalent of 5,000 Hiroshima bombs? Nuclear confrontation is a threat to us all because of the nuclear winter thing. And there's so much which is not being addressed. There's so much which the American people deserve to know, including how much this is costing us.
Can I read you something? I'm just asking.
Yeah, great.
It says engaging with foreign assets is a
I'm pretty sure my 8th grade history teacher would have had a better explanation than that.
pattern for Dr. Jill Stein. Previously, the Senate Intelligence Committee investigated links between Stein's 2016 campaign and Russia's efforts to interfere in the election, while an indictment brought by Special Counsel Robert Mueller found that the Kremlin's Internet Research Agency had used social media to promote her candidacy.
So that has been
more than 1,000 times.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so the Senate Intelligence Committee, they don't mention what the finding of the Senate Intelligence Committee was, which was that there was absolutely no fault on my part whatsoever. The question that was raised there was, did Russian social media have an impact? And was I, a beneficiary of that? And the Senate...
They said you repeatedly parroted Kremlin views and posted a
well,
campaign
you know what
video
they
from
consider a
outside Red
Kremlin
Square.
view? They consider reparations a Kremlin view.
Oh.
They consider the civil rights movement actually a Kremlin view.
Yes, because it's divisive within the American populace, and it also it divides us so much on those issues that we can't focus on issues we agree on. So yeah, it is literally doing what he's saying.
They consider racial disparities.
How is she the one running for president when she doesn't recognize that? How does she not recognize that she's being used as a fucking puppet?
A Kremlin view. So these are Department of Defense talking points, and these are unfortunately the DNC talking points as well, which repeatedly tries to smear me as a Russian agent, even though it has been
idiots.
yes, and this
Yeah,
has been very
you are useful
specifically
idiots.
Let's just be blunt about that.
found lacking. And the report, get this, the report that was initially used to supposedly show that Russians had a social media campaign supporting me, that was written by a cybersecurity firm called the New Knowledge Corporation. New Knowledge had to disband shortly after publishing that because they were exposed for conducting an interference campaign themselves in the 2017 Senate election in Alabama. And how did they do that? They pretended to be a Russian influence campaign on social media. So they did exactly what they have accused the Russians of doing. They actually did, and put it under the false guise of being a Russian interference campaign.
all-
So
it's
this
all
is just
a psyop
such
and a hit job, bro. It's a psyop and a hit job.
Conversations
Totally.
with Vladimir Putin or anybody in the Kremlin, anybody within his team? Have you ever had any
I have
conversations
tried
with him?
to and have never been able to. But that has been my goal, to actually advance each of these 3 absolutely critical issues.
Okay.
And in the words of John F. Kennedy, we must not negotiate out of fear, but we must not fear to negotiate. Look at the Ukraine war, for example,
Man,
which is an absolute
again,
disaster.
these guys. Again, this goes back to the whole like academia thing. If this is all you got is like quotes, guess what? I'm not here for the quotes. I don't give a shit about your fucking quotes. I give a shit about what you can bring to me as an American person. I give a shit about how consistent are you in your messaging, and also, are you saying something that can actually happen instead of just being these pipe dreams? Because that's what I got personally sick of as, a far left, 20-something anarchist, where I was just like, oh, this is never going to go anywhere. Like, what am I doing? I'm constantly beating my head against these walls that are never going to break.
It is a war being fought to the last Ukrainian. No one is paying a steeper price in blood than the people of Ukraine right now. This is an absolutely criminal and tragic war.
Sorry, I thought she was going to continue her other point, but no, it was the same. Like, yeah, I was an anarchist for a while, and then I just decided, hey, you know what? I can still hold my values and still like think that, healthcare for, universal healthcare is great. I think that, being a pacifist is not a bad thing. It's just you have to also be a little bit of a realist. Like you can't just take your pacifism and be like, we just need to get rid of all nuclear weapons, all guns, and then we all live in Utopiaville.
But it was completely...
That's fundamentally ignoring the other people that don't think that way.
Be avoidable. Even after it began, there were negotiations taking place under the auspices of Turkey, which brought together the various parties, and you had a peace agreement between Russia and between Ukraine. And that peace treaty was disrupted by the U.S. and by the U.K., which came in and said, no, you may not make peace here. The U.S. has been invested in this, unfortunately, as part of our plan for the expansion of U.S. influence following the collapse of the Soviet Union. It's a longer story. We don't need to go into it, but this is an absolutely avoidable conflict. You have to be very skeptical of the talking points that we're hearing.
What does the Green Party have planned for America?
Well, so
I hear a lot of geopolitical issues.
So I'd like to bridge between those by going back to something that you asked about.
No. See, this is where if he was even thinking that he was helping her, then he would just shut up right now, because this is about Charlemagne interviewing her and her getting out her platform. I don't understand how Jill's like not just kind of giving him the little arm squeeze, like, no, stop.
About like Team Red, right? And how we appeal. So just to be clear, right? That part of the appeal to Team Red is to actually focus on America. So one of the things that is a marked difference between the way that the corporate interests that control the Democrats and the corporate interests that control the Republicans are configured is that on the so-called right end of the spectrum, there are a lot more people that are interested in disengagement from forever wars and want to focus instead on domestic policy. So I think that is one place where we can absolutely...
You can make points without hitting the fucking table. Do this, or do like anything else with your hands, please.
Make an appeal. And the appeal that Jill sort of framed, and I'll be blunt about this, like my grandfather, Rudolph Ware Sr., he never, so yeah, I go by Butch, but I'm actually Rudolph Ware III. My grandfather from Georgia, father grew up in D.C. My son's
who cares?
So we got 4 of them. But Rudolph Sr. never would have voted for Democrats because he didn't like that culture of dependency, going with the handouts, somebody that did things for himself. So the idea of saying we can cut your personal income taxes, we can cut your small business taxes because we're going to make billionaires pay their fair share, and we're going to stop taking money out of your pocket and handing it to Raytheon by laundering it through genocides, right? That we feel that is something that will appeal to people, not just on the right, but like people that are not thinking about voting at all. That this is actually a really, really crucial point. And it is one place where Team Blue is absolutely speeding us towards World War III more rapidly than Team Red is, okay? Team Red might be speeding us towards a kind of societal collapse, right? And fascism.
This is where How are you watching this guy and going, yeah, you know what? Yeah, so by what he just said, if we had ranked choice, I would vote for Trump.
Exactly. But the thing is that the truth of the matter is that imperialism and fascism are 2 sides of the same coin. One is the side that faces outwards, and the other is the side that faces inward. And I made a social media post before I got brought onto the team that said it this way, is that whether you vote Team Red or Team Blue, militarized fascism wins. Because the AIPAC and the weapons manufacturers are patrons of both networks. And just to return to that point, right? I've been on campuses. I organized a Palestinian liberation concert.
I feel like I have to smoke a lot more weed to even get like close to being on board with this guy, where it's like, dude's cooking.
October 21st. I organized a Black and Palestinian solidarity panel at my local mosque on October 11th, 4 days after. Like, your brother was not backing down. And the Zionists came for my job within the month, okay? And, a Negro's still standing. So, but the point of all that is just to say that when...
Why is your entire identity about being a black Muslim? Like, people that, like, anybody that does this, where if you make white Christianity, you're just... as a white Christian, as a white man, as a white Christian or whatever, like, I kind of do it with like being a stoner, but it's more so just to be like, dude, look at me. Like, come on. And on top of it, it's just like, yeah, I'm trying to kind of just come across, not even come across. I'm just trying to fucking be me. So sometimes, yeah, I'm a little bit of a bit of an idiot, but whatever. But this guy, oh man, by the way, that is an awesome pause face. Let's take a second just to really appreciate that. But at least I'm not running for fucking president, and this dude seriously is not helping third-party politics by doing this.
When we launched this campaign to try to actually bring people into this conversation, you see that this is actually where the American people stand. The American people do not want this forever war, and they do not want militarized fascists coming to their campuses.
We're going in circles, and it's starting to actually kind of get boring.
And that's Democratic governor in California. That's Democrat, mayors in places like New York City. It's Democrats that run.
Well, we're getting we're literally just one scoot of a segment away from the most replayed. So let's see what happens here.
Bro, fascism is already here. It's just that one of it is like fascism and the other is fascism. But the truth is that the purple fascists, the purple imperialists, Team Red and Team Blue, are run by the same funders, and who funds you runs you. So there's a discourse about putting off
this
fascism.
guy.
But the reality is that fascism was already...
Dude, just go create a new country. At this fucking point, just move. Go create your own new country. This is the shit. Like it or leave it kind of shit. Yeah, no. What he's doing is he's never going to be happy, and he's never going to work within the system. Like, because the system's broken. We need to fix it from the ground up.
Right here, because we already can't
Jesus fucking Christ. And then you guys get mad when you get called anti-American.
speak freely. We already have people, university presidents, losing their job under democratic regimes. We already have kids that are lining up for peaceful protests, having their heads knocked open, or you have the cops standing to the side at UCLA so the thugs can knock kids' heads open. So I'm sorry, the fear mongering ain't gonna work on me.
The only thing that I would say to you is I think it's very dangerous rhetoric to say there are two sides of the same coin. I do think it's important for us to
Dangerous to the
understand.
Democrats, yes.
I think it's dangerous to all of us, actually. I don't have the
we
privilege.
disagree.
I understand. We do. On a lab, we also
How are you going to agree? How are you going to agree with the point that was just disproving your last point? What?
But here's one thing I think we can agree on. Either you win or lose this election. There's really no in between. Dr. Stein, in 2000,
I hope I
you ran for
misheard
governor
that.
of Massachusetts and you lost. In 2004, you ran for state representative in Massachusetts and you lost. In 2006, you ran for secretary of the Commonwealth. You also lost. In 2010, you ran for governor again, this time against the first black governor
Yep, here's the most replayed, guys.
in Massachusetts, Deval Patrick. You lost. In 2012, you ran against this country's first black president, and you got just less than 0.5% of total votes cast. In 2016, you ran against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, losing.
She's kind of exposing me for being the most unserious person here. Uh-oh.
Significantly with 1.4 million votes cast for you, but 0 electoral college votes, which I agree with y'all needs to be abolished. But 136 million people voted, and you lost that election as well. So I want to know what the pathway to victory is for you in 2024. It can't just
Now,
be.
I'd like to provide a different
there's not
framework.
And I also
Can I respond, please? May I respond? May I respond? May I respond?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Well, I would like to respond. This is the framing of the empire and the oligarchy and white supremacy and colonialism. It wants you to feel that resistance is futile.
What?
This is about voter blaming.
That's it. I'm going to just get that as a soundboard or just every time that she mentions the empire.
Let me finish.
No.
What you're not going to say is that I'm ever parroting anything at the hands of white supremacy.
Oh, my God. I love this woman.
This is something that's very
I
different.
love this woman. This is how you handle a bullshit artist like her.
Again, it's a binary
Well, I'm
choice
just
in an
pointing
election.
out that these
It is
are the
either a
talking
win or a
points.
lie. No, it's
These
not
are
a
the
talking
same
point.
talking points
No,
that the
I didn't get my
DNC
talking
uses.
This is not DNC talking points. This is my research. And sadly for you, the research says you have never won an election. You have
Ha 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 ha. Oh, reality coming in and taking a bite.
been successful in pushing forward certain agendas.
Sorry, I'm engaged now. Let's go.
Never won an
We
election
are
as a
the
candidate. Is
one
that a good
party.
strategy?
So, in order to win, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And in this case,
She
it's
won't
many
even look
steps.
at her.
Let me point
3, 4,
out.
5, 6,
Let me
7
point
steps.
out, please.
7 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps.
You need to compare the Green Party, not with those who are taking money from AIPAC and the War Machine and Wall Street. You've got to
comparing it with
compare
your
us.
record.
Excuse me. You have to compare us to other grassroots,
Brother, now you want to support her. She told me I'm a white
non-corporate.
supremacist. Okay.
We need.
Dude, at some point, Charlemagne's going to step up and be like, Jill, you got to shut the fuck up.
She said I was parroting the talking points of the white supremacy. That was my discipline.
May I finish, please? May I get to my point? May I please get to my point? Let me finish, please. Thank you. You're trying.
Dude, I'm with you. I'm with her entirely. Fuck Jill Stein.
To compare us to
Jill
the
Stein
Democratic Party and the
sucks.
Republican Party with their billions of dollars, or to the Working Families Party, which is not a.
I know I've said that like 2,000 times in this just one stream, but holy crap.
Under attack. As a people-powered party, not taking money from Wall Street or the War Machine or AIPAC, we are on very different turf. But if you compare us to all other similar parties, which are not taking corporate money, which are not bought and paid for, which can stand up against endless war, against homelessness, against the climate crisis, against the housing and the healthcare crisis, campaigns like us who can actually stand up for the people, they last exactly 1 to 2 election cycles, and then.
You mean like Cenk Uygur, who didn't even make it past the primary to sell his book?
They're gone. So we are actually the pillar of strength among people-powered.
What? The pillar of strength. This bitch just said that with a straight face. Oh wow. Okay, yeah, you and your half of 1%. Pillar of strength.
And what
And you disappear every 4 years.
have we done over that period? We have established the Green Party as the vehicle for people-powered politics. We have.
Have you know? That's why we have any Green Party members in the seat in a House seat or a Senate seat. She brought that up earlier.
Also launched the agenda, which has been adopted by the progressive Democrats, given lip service, not actually advanced. But whether you're looking at healthcare as a human right, launched by Ralph Nader as a national issue, reparations, launched by our campaign as a national issue in 2012. If you look at free public higher education, bailing out students and ending student debt, you had Congress bailing out the crooks on Wall Street who crashed the economy, but not bailing out homeowners, not bailing out students. That agenda was launched by us. So I think it's not fair, and it is the talking point of a...
Actually, I know this kind of flies in the face of everything she just said there, but George Bush was still president at the beginning of the financial crisis. Yeah, go figure. But what he did is he did this little thing called a stimulus. Yeah. George Bush actually sent out stimulus checks, and because I remember I gave it to my weed dealer. But like right there, that kind of flies in the face of they didn't give us anything. They did. It wasn't as much, and this is what sucks about her the most is like she's kind of bastardizing leftist politics because she's using it, and then like this is the Russian agent shit, because what she's doing now is taking somebody like me who is a leftist and making me disagree, but not with the policies. But she is bastardizing the policies just by merit of them being attached to her.
AOC the other day, who is taking her marching orders from the DNC. This is exactly what they say, that we are only running for president.
Color as parroting talking points instead of us looking at basic math. And one thing that AOC has done that you haven't is win some elections. And so when I'm asking you if you won any elections, that is one point. If you want to tell me that you want to push a more progressive agenda, if you want to talk about pushing a progressive agenda, you can do that, not by running necessarily for president. Your track record as a state rep candidate, as a secretary of the Commonwealth candidate, as a gubernatorial candidate, as a presidential candidate are woefully lacking. So I'm asking that you consider going to...
You're not even listening to her. Like, how are we supposed... She's asking really good questions, and this is not unfair. What she's doing is she's coming at it with a bunch of research, and she's just like, hey, so you know how you said this, and this? Well, it says here that, well, that's just unrealistic, and you're also being inconsistent with some of the other things that you've said.
About it a different way instead of telling me.
And also, you're accusing me of using talking points when that's exactly what you're doing.
I'm parroting white supremacist talking points.
So I can tell you,
hear the facts. These are the facts. The numbers are not on your side, right?
Dr. Jill Stein, let's end with some closing remarks. Yes. On your campaign, and then the Honorable Angela Rye, you can end with your closing remarks.
I've asked my question.
Okay, so as Frederick Douglass said, power concedes
I've asked my question. This bitch ain't answering.
nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. Like so many other Greens, I came from the world of social activism. I spent decades upon decades fighting for healthcare as a human right, for racially just redistricting, which we actually succeeded in, for getting big money out of politics, and creating a public financing system, which we...
Yeah, you did so well on that Citizens United totally just fucking rolled over you.
He actually succeeded in Massachusetts until the Democratic legislature came in and invalidated the people's referendum, which had won by a 2-to-1 margin. They invalidated it on a voice vote and refused to provide the funding for it. I saw our movements being beaten back by the power, the political power of corporations and billionaires operating through the Democratic and Republican parties. I saw that over and over again. We are not making incremental progress forward. We're actually taking rather major steps backwards right now. You know, the disparities, racial disparities, black and white disparities are actually not better at all than they were in 1960, in spite of all the, hard work and the lip service that's been given to racial justice and racial equality. In Boston, in the Massachusetts area, the average household wealth of the African-American family is $8, considering debt. The average wealth of the Caucasian family is $250,000. And this is not unusual. This is where we are. We are stuck. If you looked at the footage from the floor of the DNC, what you could see were the corporate suites, which started at $500,000 each and went up to $5 million. This is the money running the DNC, running
That explains why Hassan got booted from his suite.
The Republican National Committee as well. These parties have been bought and paid for. They really do not have wiggle room. We're not going to fix this around the margins. We need to stand up and build a coalition. This was my experience as an organizer, a successful organizer on...
Yes, you're so successful that you've won no elections.
These many issues that I just ran through. How did we do that? You do it by building coalitions. But if your coalitions are only there for the moment, you know what? You can get the bill passed like we did with public funding of elections, but they're going to tear it down. Then you need your coalition to remain in power and to remain effective.
So you mean like getting, I don't know, down ballot candidates from the Green Party elected? You mean like that? You mean like you almost have to start from the ground up and not do this whole thing where you're just like, they're just not letting us be part of this.
So that you're fighting to maintain your victories. So what I see us having done since I first was tricked into running for office in 2000, running for governor, I was tricked into running for office because I saw we were failing over and over and over again on...
You were tricked into it. Oh.
our aspirations
really
for,
got you.
For racial justice, to fight white supremacy, to fight police violence, which also is getting worse year by year, to fight for health care. The health disparities between African American and white population is about 3 years. 3 years of life taken away from African Americans, and that's before you add in the disparities in education. If you factor in education disparities as well, that 3 years grows to 10 years, a decade taken off the lives of most African Americans. To me, this was just unacceptable. I could not sit there and take it over and over again, especially after the Democrats reversed our achievements to get at the core problem, which is the corruption of money in politics. We solved that, and they basically tore that solution to shreds. I could not stand there. That's when I got recruited to run for office, because I began to realize this is about building coalitions. That doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of education. It takes a lot of work.
And money that you just stole from the party.
And so I ran in that first race for governor.
Allegedly.
Challenging actually Mitt Romney, who was running for governor on the Republican ticket. And you know what? We had to fight our way to get into a televised debate, but we did succeed because the turnout was huge in the rallies that were demanding to open up the debates. And that debate was opened up on one occasion. And that debate took place in a TV studio. There was no live audience to read. So it was just, speaking to the other people in the room, small number of people, the guy behind the camera.
Yeah, that's speaking to the people. Like right now, I'm speaking to people. Well, hopefully.
So on. And the Green Party's proposals, which we've run through several times, went over like a lead balloon inside of that TV studio. And I walked out of
wonder why.
there thinking, oh, well, at least I tried. But when I walked out, I was mobbed by the press, who told me that I had won the instant online viewer poll, which we didn't even know was going on. And to me, that was like a revelation that, oh my God, people actually agree with us. We don't need to change people's minds. People's minds have been changed by the desperate state of our economy, by, the incredible injustices, by the police state that we're living in, et cetera. And it wasn't nearly as bad back then in the year 2002. So we, at that point, it's like a curtain went up for me. And I saw, oh my God, this is not a matter of having to change people's minds. People are already there. It's just people are denied knowing that there are options that actually empower us.
So what's your website for people who want that option?
Thank you. It is JillStein2024.com. And yes, check us out, because this election is full of, what shall we
just do yourself a favor and don't
say, 180s and unexpected developments.
Sure, there's a Russian fucking virus on there.
And we, the people, deserve to be heard. We are demanding to be heard. And we potentially have the power. If only the vote to stop genocide stood up to say, I will not hold my nose and vote for genocide. That vote, or the 87 million people.
See? No, she's doing the thing. She's doing the thing, guys. This is manipulating the far left against, and notice how she only popped up after that was kind of the new talking point. So
people who do not have adequate health care, or the 50% of renters who are struggling, who are just 1 or 2 paychecks away from being evicted and being out in the street. If those people stand up to vote for what we actually can have right now, this election will be turned on its head. And if we don't,
the economy actually going well is also just as bad for her as it is for Trump.
Get to the White House, but we start on the road to the White House. That too is a huge win. So I really encourage people to follow the words of Alice Walker. The biggest way we give up power is by not recognizing that we have it. This is the conversation that the Democrats.
You do know that the last guy to quote somebody like this was Ron Paul with Ayn Rand, and then we read Ayn Rand and we were like, maybe I'm not a libertarian.
Democrats, the Republicans, the oligarchs, the warmongers, they do not want you to hear this. They do not want you to know that we have power. We have the power if we are willing to stand up and demand it. And in the face of a genocide, it is a new coalition is being forged. It's being forged in this era of blood and destruction.
No, it's not, because you're not supporting it and you're not building it from the ground up.
World crisis. A new coalition is being formed to stand up for peace and justice. The institutional supports are coming out of the woodwork in a way that we have never seen before. This is my third race. We've never seen anything like it. And the mobilization of the Arab American and the Muslim American communities is a real...
It's only because of social media making it more apparent to you. That is also a thing.
Example of a community that is standing up with the incredible courage of their convictions to say we deserve better. We deserve an America and a world that works for all of us, that is within our reach if we demand it.
Well, thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Jill Stein.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of exactly what I thought it would be. Minus the whole her running mate kind of taking over the interview there. That I would not have let happen if I was her, because she's already kind of, she's trying to fucking fight an uphill battle. So for him to come in there and, platform reparations, to do a hard stance on, not supporting genocide by withholding your vote, that's the kind of shit, number one, a Russian puppet would say. Just calling it like I sees it. And number two, it's also it's dragging you down, because this is kind of, even fucking Democrats have to deal with this, where you need to kind of play to the center. And I know I know we don't like hearing that, especially, you know, in the online political sphere. We do not like talking about how we have to play nice or be bipartisan. And it's totally fucking, I get it. Enlightened centrist moment, me. But this is how you kind of get shit done. You know, this is how you keep institutions running. And also, yes, I have kind of established through this one that maybe I am not anti the idea of the American empire as much as I thought I was, even though, again, like, I wish, like, we didn't have to play that game. I wish we didn't have to be imperialist. Also, yeah, like, I'm not going to sit here and deny that we haven't done that shit. Like, I'm not one of those people. Trust me. I get the history of, you know, what we've done in Central America and all, like, just overseas, like, pretty much in every country. Fuck, all the spycraft that we've done with even our allies. Like, but I'm also not an America baddest. Like, I like this country. I like where I live. I actually like the people that I engage with, even if they don't agree with me on everything. And that's kind of part of what I would like to see kind of happen again, because, I mean, call me Midwestern or whatever the fuck, but yeah, that's just how I think that we will all coexist and our country will be a lot better for it, especially when people start to, like, realizing it's like, get offline. You need to get offline. Because that is realistically what's keeping you in this cycle of everything's so much worse than it's ever been. It's like, no, it's not. No, objectively, it's not. But you keep convincing yourself it is because Twitter told you. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was definitely a long one to get through. I did not get convinced by Jill Stein that she is anything less than a grifter. So that was kind of her moment. And she failed in my eyes and on my platform at least. So, well, if you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Trying to get to 1,000. Making my way there. So, hey, I appreciate the help. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.